What's up, folks? It's been a minute. Welcome back. I hope to be more consistent on this channel for the next couple months. Anyway, it's Inktober, and today, to be honest, I'm breaking off the ring rust. It's been a while since I've really sat down and just sketched a car, really just sketched anything. It's been kind of crazy with work and all this stuff. So, I'm showing you the raw process, and I'm starting off here with an open-wheeled kind of hot rod to kick back into the flow of sketching. And again, it's Inktober, so I'm using a Bic pen, and as I usually do, I'll start out with the front wheels, or the wheels closest to us, right? That front and rear set of wheels, and then I project that out, right? So then you get your far side wheel. You won't really see that rear far side wheel, so I don't usually, when I'm drawing in pen, I don't usually ghost that in because I won't be able to clean it up, but I'll maybe put a point there just to demarcate where I think it's going to be and to establish the perspective. But you'll see I draw the far side front wheel because it's an open wheeled car, and I know in my mind it's going to be a hot rod, so it's not going to have a full fairinged front or full fendered front end, I'll say. So again, starting to lay out the proportions ends up being a little bit wonky, but again, this is the first sketch, no underlay, anything like that, so it is what it is. This is the first pass, and sometimes that's okay. Not every sketch needs to be spot on the first shot. I like that when that happens, but sometimes, especially when we haven't sketched in a while, take some time to get ourselves reacquainted with the proper proportions and pre-visualizing more of the car. So here I'm just kind of making up a front end, like, okay, this is an interesting shape for a grill that's not completely traditional for this kind of hot rod, where I usually have these circular headlights that kind of are placed up front. And here I'm trying to do something a little bit different. What specifically? I don't know. I'm just having at it. Just letting the pen roll. And then I kind of cut in here and start to create some sort of vent graphic or some kind of intake there on the top of the hood. How this thing opens doesn't really matter. We're not there yet. We're just kind of getting the ideas on paper. We think about production later. But adding some detail and some interest to that glass section, that windshield section, and then starting to think about where the A-arms that might live, and are those going to be visible? Probably. So I'm just kind of thinking about the cutout for the A-arms. You can see I'm blocking that in there. And I'm just really just bouncing around the sketch as I start to see something in a different part of the sketch or something that hasn't been worked out. I'll kind of move back to that. So I realized that the body side was pretty blank. So I was like, all right, let's start working there. And with the Bic, I'm trying to draw or press fairly lightly to give myself a little bit of room to rework or to make corrections. I try not to press too hard on the first pass, right? And that's kind of really one of the beautiful things about drawing with a standard Bic or ballpoint pen. You get a lot of pressure sensitivity, so you're able to build up sketches. So when you see some of these super complex pen sketches, you're like, wow, how did somebody think about and see all of that ahead of time? Truth is, some people might be able to pre-visualize the whole thing. That's awesome. But a lot of the times with the Bic, you can just kind of ghost in and just start to build up slowly. Right? It requires some hand control or some wrist control to not press too hard, which I'm often guilty of, where I just get in there and I just start digging into the paper because I want to see results and I want to see them quick. And then oftentimes I'm like, ooh, should have given myself some room to go back over that, to process, right? We're all on this journey of progress, right? And just a matter of time, practice, and continued effort. And I've got to do more of all those things myself, and to dedicate more time and getting back into sketching more often, being more consistent, because that's when you start to see results, right? So I look forward to seeing, a month from now, after some more time in the saddle, if you will, how much more sensitive these first pass sketches are. And then I'm bouncing back around here to the front grille, adding some more detail and perspectives, maybe a little wonky. And I think that this front end ends up looking a bit too much like a mouth. It's kind of like a one of these. So be it, what are you gonna do? But then I realized that, and I was like, ooh, I started to draw these little, it's almost like sun rays as far as a graphic in that front grille section. I don't know if I really like it, but it's what we've got. We're drawing in pen. I guess it is Inktober, even though it's, we're halfway through at this point. That's all right, better late than never. And then I come back and I start to block in some more of that wheel and or tire and rim detail. And when I'm drawing these lines on the wheels, really what I'm doing is just kind of laying out where the shadows might be. So I'm creating a paint by numbers kind of block out for myself. So if I were to take this, and when I were to take this into Photoshop, or we'll get into markers here in a second, I already know where I want my core to be, where it's going to be a little bit lighter, and it makes it a little bit faster on that rendering side to just draw where the shadow lines are going to be in light and dark. So here I'm using a C2, a C4, a C6, and I think I have a C8. And I'm just starting with the C2 and our top surfaces, right? So the top of the hood, the roof section, I leave in a paper white. I don't really put any color there. Those are our lightest surfaces. Then we call the 2 surface, which is going to be a little bit darker, which are these side surfaces that I'm hitting here, assuming that the light is kind of coming from the top and from the side. And then I'll use a darker marker on the 3 surface. And if you go 1, 2, and 3, I'll have to show you like a box at some point if you don't know what that means. Leave a comment if you'd like to see a video explaining more thoroughly, like what is a 1, 2, and 3 surface. Happy to do that. But really it's a light, mid-tone, and a dark surface. To get something to be 3-dimensional, you need to render with 3 values, right? Light, medium, and dark, at a minimum. So here I come in with the 4 and start to punch out some more of the cores and really try to set that headlight off a little bit by making it darker behind the headlight so you can tell that it's standing out off of the body. And then here I'm coming in, so I'm actually using a neutral gray for the wheels instead of a cool gray, right? So it's an N3 here. And it just gives the sketch a little bit more of a color breakup, even though it's still gray. It's a different hue gray, right? Versus cool, it's a bit more neutral, so it's somewhere in the middle of those really warm Copic markers and the really cool blue markers that you see for the. We got phones going off in the background for the body sides and such. And it's subtle, but it's a nice little breakup, right? And you could even go all the way to using a warm W2, a W4, W6, right? Warm gray Copics for the wheels and such, and for the shadows if you wanted to. Then you get a lot more punch with that warm and cool effect. When you're drawing with a Bic and you go over it with a marker, you'll oftentimes, you can see it starts to bleed, right? The Bic ink isn't waterproof or ink proof in that way. So I can make the sketch a little bit messy, or you could write that off and use it to your advantage and call it a bit more loose, a bit more artsy, a bit more stylized, if you will. There are pens from Pilot, actually, that the Pilot G2s have a nice waterproof ink. There's a ton of waterproof inks that you could use if you wanted to do ink and then a marker over top of that. And I can put links to markers like that in the description, so feel free to click on those. They're affiliate links. It doesn't cost you anything to click on, but it does support the channel, so that's cool. And I'll try to find some good pens for you that won't bleed if you're using marker, and I'll put some Copics up there and things like that as well. So now we get into laying a little bit of a ground shadow, using a darker neutral marker. And I didn't sketch that in with pen, so I'm just kind of doing it live, if you will. But I think it's close enough. And then I come in and while the ink is still wet, while the marker is still wet, you lay in your base coat. And then I like to come in with a little bit darker marker around the front section and just go over that shadow again while the ink is still wet so that it bleeds a little bit so you don't see this really crisp working mark. So while it's wet, try to work with the marker if you want to get some more smooth transitions and bleeds and things like that. If you let the marker dry and then come back over it, you won't get that blending of the tones. You'll just see the hard lines where you stopped. You'll see the hard working lines basically on that second layer. And I'm coming back in and punching out the wheels and punching out some of these openings behind the wheels a bit to really get that wheel and those A-arms to stand off the sketch. Then that's about it. Leave a comment with any questions, leave a like, subscribe. I'd love to hear more of what you'd like to see me sketch. In the meantime, I'll just keep sketching and posting, and hopefully it'll be more consistent to keep some stuff, keep it fresh for you. All right, talk soon.